Hello there. Welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. This week we are going to be talking about what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands. And with me, as always, is Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. This week he's sad, Mark, because the
Oh,
episode was
fine.
so sad.
Abs-
Mark, say hello.
Hello, how's everyone doing? Great to be here to talk about this very sad episode. Always great to talk what if. Looking forward to it.
All right, and this week's guest is Dr. Williams, Don Willi, who does need to leave. We just found out at 9:45 East Coast time, so he may not be able to stay for the entire discussion, but we'll talk about as much as we can with Don, and then if he's got to leave and we're not finished yet, Mark and I will finish up. So say hello, Don.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the master of the mystic arts and crafts. The master of the mystic hats, as you can see as well. Yeah, so let's talk about this depressing ass episode, please.
All right, we'll start with you, Don. What are your overall thoughts of this episode?
Like I said, depressing. Here we have a man who is trying to save his love, and over again, he is tortured, tormented until he becomes a shadow of his former self. And then to find out, the big twist was that he got split in half when he went to go do this. So half of him went to go and save the woman that he loved, and then the other half of him, was rational and kind of still doing his duty. Um, so to see him fall so far to the point where he collapsed an entire universe, sad, very sad. And it's like, damn, you don't have to kick people in the chest like that, kick people in the chest. But I mean, like, make it David Carradine, not Bruce Lee. That's all I'm saying.
Mark, what were your thoughts?
I think, I don't know, this is something, an episode I've really had to ponder and think about, and I'm still might be reassessing it for the rest of the week. But I think overall, objectively speaking, it's probably the best episode that's aired so far, structure wise. It was more straightforward, straight to the point. Of a what if scenario. And what I remember of the comics when I used to read when I was a kid, I remember them being really depressing. So for me, an episode like this is much more in line with what I was expecting out of What If than say the T'Challa episode, which was all happy and cheerful and everything. This is kind of more what I was expecting out of a What If kind of thing. But a lot of the specifics and the stuff to do with magic and time travel and parallel universes and time and all that kind of thing kind of splits my head a bit, and I'm I'm not sure if it works or how I feel about it. I'm not going to say it's faulty time travel logic, but it's to me, it's unnecessarily complicated, and it kind of gives me a headache thinking about it. So that makes me a bit iffy on the episode overall. But it was a great character story, so I still really enjoyed it. So and I heard all this stuff from YouTube and whatnot saying that this may turn up in the MCU forward. That this is someone referred to it as the most important episode of What If for stuff going for the MCU going forward. So that's chin scratching there. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. It might just be me and you, Mark, at that point. But when we get to the end, I was going to talk about that. But okay, so for me, I thought this was hands down, easily by far the best episode. I mean, I get why everyone says it's a super depressing episode. I mean, it is, but I guess it didn't really hit me that hard. Possibly because I've seen this. Spoiler alert, this version of Doctor Strange several times in the trailer, so I know that and it looks like he's probably going to try to redeem himself. So I think at least that version of Doctor Strange might get a redemptive arc, after having destroyed his entire universe. So maybe that's why I didn't feel like this was the most depressing thing of all time or anything. It's definitely depressing, but I've seen more depressing than I don't know. I loved how they messed with time. They did take a little liberties with the time stone. I think it was used differently here than it was in the films, but I didn't care about that. I thought it was very inventive, very creative. It does split your head a little bit, but the separate timelines within an alternate universe, to me, is mind blowing. I loved all the different things they did with this. I love the twist that there's the other Doctor Strange. I thought it was a great episode personally, but I don't know. It's definitely my favorite. And it's funny, my second favorite would be the T'Challa, which is the exact opposite in tone, which is the super happy episode. But I don't know. All right. Did you guys have any additional thoughts before we start jumping into the episode? All right. So let's start with Doctor Strange and Christine, because things actually differ from our universe before the episode started, because in our universe, in the MCU Prime universe, Doctor Strange offers Christine to go to this gala or whatever the hell the thing he was going to, where he was making a speech and dressing up all fancy, and she was like, no thanks, I'm not going to that. And here she's already going, and it seems like they're dating, that they're together, whereas in our universe they weren't together. And I got the impression that they very much were, and she was going with him to this thing. And that's really the big difference, is that she's with him in the car here. Whereas in our universe, she is not. And that's what happens there. And then I'm going to jump forward a little bit into the episode when he does the time stone thing and keeps trying to fix it. And all these YouTube videos I watch say, oh, it's like the old man in Groundhog Day. No, it's not like Groundhog Day. This is Lost. This is Charlie and Lost. No matter what I do, you're gonna die, Charlie. That's what it made me think of immediately. And then someone else pointed out, another video I saw pointed out that it's like the most recent time machine movie based off the H.G. Wells novel, which we actually covered in our time travel. We did one of those top 25s with the time travel, and we covered that. That film was a part of it. And I was like, oh yeah, that did that thing too, where his love kept dying over and over and over again. But to me, it made me think of Lost. And that is absolutely devastating. And I love how they ended up splitting his reaction in half, because there's two very different ways that you could, or actually the first one didn't. He never went through that part of it, the thing happening over and over again. But still, the two different ways that he reacted to her death. But what I really want to talk about here is the absolute point in time, because that seems to be something that's going to be key moving forward to the MCU, that concept of an absolute point. That's something that you cannot change. And it does seem to differ from, obviously it's different from each universe, because in our universe, Christine obviously does not die. So that's not an absolute point in time. But in this universe, it is, so that you cannot change it without destroying the whole universe. So I found that whole thing very fascinating. We'll start with Marc. Anything related to Doctor Strange and Christine and the lost of it all and the absolute point in time.
Well, it's funny. I didn't actually think of Lost until you mentioned it just now. I thought of Butterfly Effect, which is a bit different. But it's basically he tries to save his girlfriend over and over again, just makes things worse. And I'm sure there was another movie, but I can't think of it at the moment. I think the Groundhog Day comparison is ridiculous. I agree with you there as the least thing. The Time Machine movie, yeah, I thought of that too as well. I think I was trying to think of it, but then I saw a YouTube video point. I was like, oh yeah, that one too. But I'm trying to think that there was something else I saw more recently that had the same thing, with someone trying to save the woman they love over and over again, failing. So to me, it's kind of something I've seen before, but it didn't diminish it. Like I still loved it. I still thought it was an interesting storyline. And I didn't until you just pointed out right now, because it's been so long since I've seen Doctor Strange, I didn't realize that she wasn't with him at all at this point in time. So that makes me think now that that's what was different in this universe, is because they were a couple already, and in the other universe they weren't. So that made her, yes, I'm going to go with you to this thing because we're a couple. So I think that was the difference. And because they're a couple, that means he's more attached to her. And so it would be, I know we're going to talk about future stuff later, but it would be interesting to see this version of Doctor Strange, meaning our version, who still has Christine, but they never got together. They got actually alienated because of the accident. So that's why this is what really draws me to the episode. This is what I want out of my what if base, basically seeing how this slight change of them being a couple cascades till the end of the fucking universe. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
All right, real quick before I turn to Don, just want to say hello to people in the chat. Brandon Howes, Allison Fordyce, as usual. Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews, who was with us last week, says, "Hey everyone, just dropping in, or just dropping into a like. Have not seen the episode yet, so I will watch this after." And I do have a good show. Okay, well, you can comment on the video later. Definitely go watch that episode, Rob. All right, so Dawn, what are your thoughts on this part of the episode here?
So yeah, as far as this kind of being the linchpin that makes things so much different, yeah, this is a totally different Doctor Strange that we're seeing, because we're used to him, at least from the movie, kind of being this arrogant jerk that we couldn't really see Christine wanting to date. And now it's like here, that's his, that is his heart. And so to see all these different iterations of him going and trying to save her from death, that was heartbreaking, because in the universe that we're used to, she's still a doctor trying to do the right thing and help save people. And here, you have these tragic events, and it's like no matter what Stephen Strange tries to do, he cannot change this one thing. And he's told the consequences of if he actually does manage to do this. So it's a catch-22, and unfortunately Christine is the casualty in the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it is kind of heartbreaking, and I agree with you, Mark, that even though we've seen it before, I don't think that took away any of the power of it, just because it's something that we've seen before. I thought it was really devastating and really emotional. Any other thoughts on that? We can move on.
I just wanted to say, I don't know if we're going to touch on this later, but I just wanted to say that I thought that I lost my train of thought. Go ahead. I'll bring it
All
up
right. Well, if
later.
it comes back to you, let me know.
Yeah.
You can get back to it. Okay. So I want to talk about now. He goes to this the library of God. I forget what it. Do you guys remember what it was called? The library of
Calamostro or something like that.
Yeah. And apparently, I didn't catch this the first time, but apparently, based on other videos that I watched, that the keeper of that library tells him at one point that he has been there for thousands of years. So apparently, he's been there. So I guess he's existing outside of time, being there for thousands of years, summoning all these creatures, which is that I just can't even wrap my brain around. There's already a lot that stretches the bounds of my my brain, but I wanted to talk about how he summons these creatures. The first one he tries to summon I'm pretty sure, the same tentacle monster from the Peggy Carter episode, or at least a version of it. May not be the same, version of it from the same universe, but it appears to be. So this tentacle monster seems to be pretty important, and a lot of people have said that this is likely, I think, Shumagora, I believe, from the comic books, who has been rumored to be the villain in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm starting to see little inklings of how this might all tie into the greater MCU, particularly in the Multiverse of Madness, but I don't really have the whole picture yet, just little pieces of the puzzle. But this tentacle monster, whether it's Shumagora or not, does seem to be important. Um, and then, of course, Doctor Strange is unable to assimilate, to use a Borg term, assimilate the tentacle monster at first. So he has to backtrack and work his way up to it. And he starts with this demonic garden gnome, which I thought was kind of funny, and works his way up to the tentacle monster. What did you guys make of that scene and the tentacle monster, and what its role might be? Don, we'll start with you this time.
Enemy of like an RPG when you gotta level up in order to go and fight the next boss, and so especially starting off with the gnome, and then it's like, oh well, yeah, I don't want to absorb a bug, so he just took the cape and all that, and just to see like the transformations every time he absorbs someone new, that was kind of interesting. And then it's like finally he gets to whatever the tentacle monster is, and just like, yeah, look, I don't need the entirety of you. I just need some tentacles. Here, cuts the tips of the tentacles off and takes them. So when it's basically revealed that there are two strangers somehow split between the same timeline, it was like, oh man, this is going to be bad, because one doesn't know anything about the fact that the other has all of these powers. It was almost to a certain extent like Agent Smith in the Matrix, when he started absorbing everyone in the Matrix. So yeah, this is that was just absolutely wild to see this version of Doctor Strange, but thankfully that is not the everlasting version of Doctor Strange, because, whew, damn.
Mark?
So I think this scene did a good job of showing the transition from his sort of dip into madness and becoming the evil character, or whatever you want to call him. Misguided has the Ancient One refers to him, and it shows. And I think it does a good job of conveying that, because at first he's like, okay, I have to absorb these powers in order to save Christine, so this is what I'm going to do. But as he slowly does it, he gets worse and worse and worse, and it's just like, oh, this is some evil shit that he's doing. And the one thing I wanted to bring up about this whole library thing, I kind of assumed that this whole library existed like outside of time, that wasn't like a physical place on Earth, that's like some other dimension, but I don't know if that's the case.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
it's kind of what I thought when I first saw the episode. But one thing I was wondering is that book he was reading said like, how do you change an absolute point in time, and it's to absorb all these mystical powers. But what I want to know is like, how did the book know that would work? Because when it did work, when he did change an absolute point in time, it destroyed the universe. So it just made me curious as to, I'm not saying there's a plot hole, maybe there's an explanation for this, but I was just curious, like, how did this book like they couldn't have done it. So if they knew that would change how to change the absolute point in time, then wouldn't they have destroyed the universe unless this knowledge came from outside the universe? Another universe was destroyed. I don't know. that part of it confused me a bit. Yes, it hurt my head a bit to think about that as one of the things about this episode. But yeah, I remember what I was going to say earlier about the whole Christine dying thing. What I found, the part of that I found hard to believe, or that maybe, yeah, I found hard to believe, was that Christine dying would lead Doctor Strange to, or Stephen Strange to become Doctor Strange, to go to Ancient One and learn the arts. It makes more sense where he was trying to heal his hands. It didn't make as much sense to me that because he lost his loved one, he happened to end up. That was kind of a suspension of disbelief kind of thing where you just, well, this is a what if episode. The episode needs to happen, so it needs to lead to the exact same events of the Doctor Strange movie, which it seems to me that wouldn't lead to that, but whatever, I was just willing to go with it there.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that part of it. I was just thinking earlier, though, that wasn't there a scene in the original movie where Christine helps him?
Yeah, he gets like killed at one point.
Killed, and yeah, so that would have had to have gone differently somehow for it to all work out. But whatever. Yeah, I bought that he might still, like, just for different reasons, go seek out the mystic art. So I didn't really have a huge problem with that. But as far as what you were saying about that book, and was it from another universe? Maybe it was written by a demonic character who wanted somebody to destroy the universe for their own purposes, and so they left that there. Maybe it was Mephisto. I don't know, but that's a little less headachy explanation.
Well, I wonder, like, who was this Currigula, whatever his name? I can't remember. Yeah. Apparently, like, I watched videos that said that he was mentioned in the movie, but it was just like, this is the book from, like, who is this person? Like, how does he have this library and these books? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And some people think that dude was the keeper of the library. Was Brandon calls it Cagalasto or whatever. But I don't know. He said he wasn't, so I don't think he was that dude. So that's a good question.
Yeah. I heard that theory too, and I didn't buy it either.
Yeah. I don't know if that will, hope that maybe that will be answered at some future point in the MCU. If not, in What If? I don't know.
Cagalistro.
Okay, thanks for repeating that, Brandon. All right, so any other thoughts on that? We can move on. We're actually going through this really quickly. We might be able to talk about it a lot before Don leaves. But I did want to talk about a little bit more about the two Doctor Stranges, because I did think that was a really inventive solution by the Ancient One to split it into two timelines. And yeah, I just try not to think too much of the logistics of that. So there's two different timelines. I wasn't sure if they coexisted, or if Doctor Strange, the evil Doctor Strange, was just able to, Doctor Strange Supreme, I guess I could say, was able to cross over to the other timeline and bring the other Doctor Strange to him. I just try not to think about it too much, just accept it. There were two different timelines, but I'm just fascinated by the fact that within a whole other universe, which was Splinter, I guess, the way it's presented in the first episode is that one decision forks off into another universe. So one decision, I guess in this case, it was the fact that Doctor Strange and Christine were still together, that splits off into another universe. And then within that universe, we could have two timelines. And that makes my head hurt. Yeah. But I thought that was really, really interesting. And I thought it was very interesting to have the two Doctor Stranges fighting against each other. Oddly, the thing that came to my mind is Superman 3. The two Supermans, which is unfortunate because I think this was a lot better than that. I think it was a lot more interesting than that. But Um, I really, I forget which one of you, maybe Dawn mentioned earlier about how he had all of these powers. Like, I really felt like there was no way in hell that the good Doctor Strange could defeat the Doctor Strange who had absorbed all these creatures. In fact, I thought he did a lot better than I thought he did pretty well for himself. I thought he did a lot better in that fight than he should have. Like he put up a good fight against a being who was, I think, way more powerful than he was. So to me, it was always inevitable that that was going to happen. That he was going to absorb him. And I guess also maybe the ending didn't hit me as hard because I thought the way the Watcher talked about it, he was like, "Oh well, he's going to I forget his words, but he's going down the wrong path. Bad things are going to happen." Like the Watcher already knew that that was going to happen, so it all seemed inevitable. So you're just watching this play out, this inevitable ending. But I really love the aspect of the two Doctor Stranges. And Brandon mentions the two visions. Well, they didn't talk about the ship of Theseus this time. This is a little bit different, but um, Mark, what are your thoughts on the Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange scenario?
So yeah, thinking about the two like different, that the ancient one split the two timelines. That's what really gives me a headache. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm not saying it's bad time travel logic. I'm saying I don't know. It just makes me a bit hesitant on this whole episode. Like the Here's my question though: is why didn't the ancient one, if the ancient one could split the timeline, why didn't they couldn't she make it so that one timeline where Doctor Strange becomes evil and doesn't happen, and that this timeline is the only one that actually happens? I don't know. That's maybe people will think that's a dumb thought, but that's just what I was thinking.
No, I don't understand how would she do that because at that point it had already happened. He was already on the point toward evil, so she split it off to make it so. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that she could delete that timeline. She would have to.
But I
split it
think if
off.
she could split it, like, couldn't she undo it? Like, it seems to me if she can do one, she'd be able to do the other.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but that was just the thought that occurred to me. But and so is all right, so all the different time variants that we saw in Loki, is that different than the different universes that we're seeing in What If? So are all those different time variants occurring in our universe, or all those the different universe that can also contain their own time variants? My head's gonna explode just trying to think about this. and so yeah.
I think there are different universes that have within them different timelines. That's what I think it is, but
so all the different stuff we saw on Loki were different universes, or did the What If different than the Loki?
I got the impression that I feel like the stuff that we saw, and I could be totally wrong, in Loki up through the ending was all timelines of our universe. Once the things started splitting off at the end there,
that created different universes.
I think that was different universes.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong. I don't know. That's my guess.
But yeah, like the Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange, like it was cool, but again, it's like this is Marvel's thing. Brandon in the chat mentioned the two visions, but this goes like it's such a cliche in the MCU where the hero has to fight the evil version of themselves. It's like it's the thing. Now, usually it's another person who has the same powers, but here it's like actually the same person, but it's still like it's like a MCU thing.
Well, I thought this was different because it actually is the same person and not
like I just said. Yeah, it was different, but it was similar enough to the point where I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I've seen in the MCU a lot before. And also what you were saying before about obviously the evil Doctor Strange was going to win because he was more powerful. So it seemed like if that was the Ancient One's plan, wasn't a very good plan. But I guess it's the only shot she had. And isn't she dead? Like, how could she split the time? I don't know.
All right, let's. I know Don's going to leave in a few minutes. We'll let
All
Don
right.
weigh in on this.
All right, so Strange versus Strange. As I said before, you got one that's got a ton of powers, and the other one doesn't know that the other one has a ton of powers. And here you have, one, visuals. We got to give a shout out for the visuals because even though this wasn't maybe necessarily my favorite story, I think it was the best looking out of the entire series so far. You have one who is hell bent on getting what he wants by any means necessary. And when it comes to fighting, the person who is willing to do the most usually is the one that's going to win. Good Doctor Strange didn't want to necessarily kill evil Doctor Strange. He just wanted him to change his mind. And bad Doctor Strange is like, hey, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm trying to get my girl. So whoever I got to kill for that to happen, that's all that matters to me. And, again, it was like the Matrix with Agent Smith, where, finally he absorbs Neo and, it ain't all it's cracked up to be because now you have the power to bring back the person that you love, but you're no longer you. Look what you had to do in order to get there. So, like I said, super super tragic and ultimately depressing. It was like like Game of Death when you see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar kick Bruce Lee and he's got like this giant ass print on his chest. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. Not only, was he just more powerful, but he, was more determined. Like he was going to do whatever it takes. Whereas the other one was just trying to change his mind. So yeah, he was doomed. The good Doctor Strange was doomed. He had no chance. And I'm glad you brought up the visuals too, because that was one of the strengths of the original film, the Doctor Strange film too. I think it has the best visuals out of any film in the MCU, and I also agree that the visuals were really good here as well. It's fantastic. The multiverse of madness, I think, is just gonna. I hate to get my expectations up too high because it always sets you up for disappointment. But I think the visuals, at least, will probably blow us all away, if nothing else. And some of the visuals from the trailer of Spider-Man: No Way Home actually look pretty cool as well. But I think Multiverse of Madness is going to blow us away. So I'm super excited about that. But yes, the visuals are fantastic.
Can I? Do you mind if I just chime in 1 second? This is going to be the first Sam Raimi movie since Spider-Man 3, and so we got to see how that's gonna pan out as well with his style trying to blend in with the MCU style of filmmaking. So that's one thing that I'm kind of excited yet still apprehensive about it.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. We'll have to see how that all works out. That'll be interesting. Mark, anything else to add on any of this stuff that we've been talking about? All right, I want to talk about the Watcher because this was the most interesting Watcher episode. Usually we only see his silhouette. This time we see his actual face and his mouth moving. To me, he looked a lot like Jeffrey Wright, honestly. I think they tried to make his animation look Jeffrey Wright-esque, in my opinion. And this is the first time he's actively a part of the episode and not just watching. And at the end, Doctor Strange has become so powerful that he actually is able to see the Watcher and begs the Watcher to help. And he's like, nope, can't do it. Sorry. you were warned. I mean, which is true. They tried to warn you, dude. It's kind of your own fault. Like, nothing I can do to help you now. And he had an interesting line earlier where he said that I can't interfere because I can't sacrifice the multiverse for one universe. So I wonder what I was curious what that means. Like, how would helping that one universe affect the greater multiverse? Questions that I'm pretty sure will be answered, if not in What If, in the Multiverse of Madness. And I do think that by the end of it, the Watcher is going to interfere. He did interfere in the comic, so I think he eventually is going to interfere. But we'll see. Don, what are your thoughts on the Watcher in this episode?
So the Watcher, Uatu is always kind of I don't know. He's always a very confusing character because he shows up. Sometimes he just plays the background, and he kind of narrates the story. But every now and then, he kind of gets off his high horse and just like, excuse me, what do you think you're doing there? Yeah, no. You are screwing things up very badly. And I could help, but I'm not going to. I'm actually doing more than I'm supposed to right now. I'm just kind of supposed to be observing, but you are screwing up so badly that I actually had to come down here and have a talk with you. So that's the thing that kind of got me because yeah, I mean he saw where things were going. He could have stopped Strange, but he's like, that's not my job. My job is to, sit here, observe, and be a record for all time, and here you go, fucking things up. So, I mean, listen, he did the job he was supposed to do. Doctor Strange, unfortunately, due to his grief, was not able to maintain his composure, and we got a collapsed universe with a man stuck in a diamond, or I don't know, whatever a purple gemstone is.
Yeah, but he also he really strongly implied that if he couldn't intervene without having adverse effects on the greater multiverse, so it was just it wasn't that it was like I could interfere, but I'm not gonna. It was more like I can't interfere because the impact of saving this one universe would affect multiple universes in some negative way, and so it sucks for this one universe, but I can't, save this one universe at the, but while sacrificing the whole rest of the multiverse. That was what he said, and I'm curious what that means. Mark, what are your thoughts on the Watcher?
Well, see, that kind of ties into the Loki show and their whole message about predetermination and how things are meant to happen and how you can't really change things. And that it seems like the Watcher has that same sort of mentality that this is the way, this is what's going to happen. It's always what's going to happen. This is the way it needs to be. And if I try to interfere and fuck with it, it's just going to fuck everything else. And it's going to domino, like Brandon in the chat mentioned domino effect. That's just going to fuck everything else up. So I got to it's like his version of the Prime Directive, pretty much. And I don't think, and I think so. I think that's definitely his mentality, but I think he also has the mentality of, well, this is your own damn fault. Like we warned you. You've been warned, and this is your consequences of what you're gonna do. And you can't just save yourself at the last minute. That's just not how it works. So that's, and I love this ending, by the way. It's probably I'm still thinking, still trying to decide on the episode as a whole, but I definitely love this ending. It's definitely the best ending of the show so far, especially having the Watcher speak up. And I love how it's foreshadowed earlier in the episode when they could have Doctor Strange was sensing the Watcher. He was like, what? When the Watcher was talking to us, the audience, Doctor Strange looked at him and was sort of sensing him, and then here he finally full on saw him. And it's not like the Watcher made his presence known. It's like Doctor Strange finally saw him, and it's like, I see you there watching me, help me. And he's like, no, fuck off. I'm not gonna help you. And I thought that was extremely powerful. And the whole ending where he, with this version of Doctor Strange, realized that he was so single-minded, determined to bring Christine back to life that he was ignoring, and now he's like, oh fuck, I fucked up this, I shouldn't have done this. And it was too late for him. And that was that's why I think it was so depressing and such a sad episode, is because he was so determined, set on this one thing, and realizes that he fucked everything up because of it. And one last thing I want to say is, when I saw that universe disintegrating effect at first, the first thing I thought, oh, it's Thanos, he's doing his thing. But I was like, oh wait, no, it's something else.
Yeah, they tried to make it look a little bit different.
Yeah,
they
did.
Was more like dusting. This was kind of more liquidy.
No, you're definitely right. It was definitely made an effort to make it look different, but that was just the first thing that I was like, oh no, it is different. Yeah, and it was much slower, and like falling apart. But yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at 6:43 my time. Don, you got to leave in a couple minutes. You want to throw in any more thoughts on anything before you take off?
Yeah, listen, just to reiterate the point, this episode, even though looked very good, story structure phenomenal, overall depressing as fuck. All right, yeah, I mean, listen, this is a what if story for the ages, and I can't wait to see what they do next, and also if anything that they're doing is going to tie into either the Multiverse of Madness or maybe Loki season 2 or anything like that. Because it looks like they're kind of setting up characters to be, I guess, multiversal Avengers at some point, at least from the previews. So we'll see what happens with that one. But I want to thank you, Alyssa, for inviting me to your channel. Mark, great to see you as always. And yeah, hopefully, I can come back at a later time when I have more time and finish things out with you two.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you. We will do one more. Each of the 4 of our special guests will get one more episode. So we'll figure that out. Actually, Darren's getting 2 more because he'll be here next week too. But I'll reach out to you and we'll work that out. We'll definitely have you back talking about another episode of What If.
All right, thank you very much, and have a good evening to everyone watching and those who will be watching in the archives.
All right. All right, Mark, we can just a couple more things we can wrap up on. I was actually going to talk about the ending next. You kind of already talked about it. Do you want to expand on anything with the way that it ends, with the whole universe collapsing into that, whatever that was? Don was calling it like a diamond. It wasn't really. I was unclear.
No, I think I pretty much touched on it. I just thought it was an amazing ending, and yeah, it was super depressing.
Yeah, but the multiversal Avengers that he was just talking about, I think that version of Doctor Strange is a part of them, and there's definitely a scene where he's talking. Yeah, there's I could be wrong about that, but there's definitely a scene with him talking to Peggy Carter in the trailer. It's that Doctor Strange talking to Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. So he exists still, apparently. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do with this character next. And I think this episode did start building us toward the Watcher interference. He didn't interfere here, but I think eventually he's going to have no choice. I think things are going to get nuts, and the whole multiverse is going to be in danger, and he's going to have to interfere. But so I'm interested to see where this goes moving forward. But I think this is the first episode where we are starting to build towards something in this first season. I think that the episodes are going to connect, and I think this is the most important piece in that puzzle, I would guess. As far as the greater MCU, we just don't have enough information yet. I don't know. Like when people talk about how this is the most important episode for the MCU, I don't know how that works yet. Perhaps at the end of the first season, we'll be able to go back and maybe have a little more of the puzzle and be able to see what the greater implications of the MCU are. Do you have any ideas, any guesses about either this episode or What If as a whole? How
Well,
that
yeah,
might-
I heard the rumor that I heard, and of course it's a rumor, so it could be totally bullshit. And a lot of people seem to think that this version of Doctor Strange, which they're calling like Doctor Strange Supreme,
Yeah, Doctor Strange
Yeah.
Supreme. Correct. Yes.
that he's going to be the villain in the Multiverse of Madness. That's been the theory.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that rumor. For the longest time, it has been Shumagora was going to be the villain. Then I've also heard Wanda. Although I think Wanda is going to be an adversary, but not ultimately the big
Yeah.
villain. Is the way I think it's going to work out in that movie. But I hadn't heard Doctor Strange Supreme. But so who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you can have more than one villain in the movie.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, it is a Sam Raimi film after all.
Well, if you think about it, the first Doctor Strange had that one dude. Again, it was like whatever the fuck his name was. And it also had Gormangu, so it had like, technically two villains. But
Yeah.
one was working for the other.
Yeah.
But so it could be a dealy like that. But I don't know. I'm still, that could be totally false because a lot of these rumors are. So, but yeah, that's the only way I could think of it would tie into the larger MCU, unless it had something to do with maybe what it ties into the larger MCU isn't this character, but the concept of absolute points in time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing that has implications. For
I
the
think
MCU.
that is a very important concept moving forward. I think it is. Definitely. Real quick in the chat, Brandon says, "What do you mean gonna get nuts? It's already nuts, isn't it?" Oh, I don't think you've seen anything yet. In my opinion, like I think this is the tip of the iceberg. You don't even know how nutsy it's gonna get. I think. That's my opinion anyway. We'll see. Are we gonna have a wrap up stream? I don't know. I think we were just going to go through all the episodes. We hadn't planned on necessarily doing a wrap-up stream. I was going to do an individual review, wrapping up the whole season, and I know Mark probably is. So we weren't necessarily planning to, but I don't know. Maybe Mark and I will discuss it off air. I was just planning on doing the 9 episodes.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's necessary because we're doing the 9 episodes, and we'll probably do our own individual wrap-ups.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be enough. But I did want to talk about the Watcher. You mentioned about how the Watcher, you're sure the Watcher is going to interfere. Are you sure the Watcher is going to interfere by the end of the season? Like, are you positive it's definitely going to happen?
Well, there kind of is a scene in the trailer that implies that.
Oh, is there? Oh, I must have missed that one.
Yeah. He's like, I mean, it could be, and maybe he's not, but they show him like shooting light at somebody.
Oh,
like he's shooting a beam of light, which, I mean, maybe that's not him interfering, but it kind of looks like it is. So, and also aside from that, though, I just feel like I just get the feeling that they're building toward that. But I could be wrong.
I mean, there's a YouTube channel I watched that they're like positive, like they would probably bet their lives on there. Like, oh, the Watcher's definitely going to interfere. Which episode? And they're taking bets on which episode it's going to be, and they think it's episode 6. I'm like, no. If the Watcher interferes at all, it's going to be episode 9.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it would be episode 9.
Yeah,
Nothing
but
else.
I mean, I'm not entirely certain he's going to interfere. Like, to me, it's not a certainty, but I wouldn't be surprised or if he did. Like,
yeah,
but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't either.
I can't say I'm certain, but I have a very strong feeling that he will. But I'm not 100% on it.
See, I wouldn't be disappointed if he didn't. I think that would be in character for him. But if he did, then I wouldn't be disappointed. I wouldn't be bothered by that either because I'm sure they would make it.
Well, it might just be a point where he doesn't have a choice but to interfere.
Well, I think if he does interfere, they need to have a damn good reason, especially after this episode.
Yeah.
Like, and you
Yeah,
really
but
need to
again,
justify.
I still think that he believes that his interference would harm the multiverse. So if it gets to the point where him not interfering is going to fuck up the multiverse, then he will interfere.
Yeah, that's what I mean by a good reason. They need to have
Yeah,
a reason
I'm
like
sure that
that.
there will be.
One thing I wanted to point out in the chat where Brandon says that chuckled at Sorcerer Armani, I actually hated that. That line actually annoyed me because it was just a rehash of the Mr. Doctor joke that they did in Doctor Strange, where he said, "Oh, it's strange. Oh, yeah, it is strange." When he's trying to say, "My name is strange," and they're thinking, "Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
is bizarre." Like, it's the same joke, and so that bothered me. But that's just me.
I'm in between you two. I didn't really laugh at it, nor did it bother me. It was just whatever.
Okay.
It was just a thing. Um, Well, one thing that I wanted to, I just a little thing that I meant to mention earlier that I forgot. I just wanted to point out that I love the fact that they got all the original
Oh
actors to
yes.
do the voices this week. No substitute actor, although some of them were very good. The guy who did the Steve Rogers voice was very good. Um, the woman who did, as you pointed out last week, the one who did Natasha, not as accurate. Um, but I love the fact I love that Benedict Cumberbatch was there. I love that all of the original actors were in it. That was another one. That and the visuals. I think this was, even aside from the story, a very well done episode.
Oh, and the music. You got to talk about the music.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
is what made that ending so depressing. Is that sad music? I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got the whole cast back, it to me that gives more weight to this episode. It makes it more
Yeah.
and something more special. Although you notice that one dude, I can't even remember his name, but the one dude played by the actor whose name I can't pronounce, he wasn't in it. That like the character was missing, and
Yeah, the character
surely
wasn't in it at all.
and it's probably because they couldn't get the actor, which I actually kind of appreciate. If you can't get the actor, just leave the character.
Yeah. I don't know, because they've gotten substitute voices for
Well,
every
no,
other
yeah,
episode.
sure, but I those characters, like, you can't have the Peggy Carter one without Steve Rogers. So those characters are essential. Whereas I don't think this guy, he wasn't essential, so they could just do it without him. So they just did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they didn't need him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm just really, really curious how this is going to affect the greater MCU. As I said, I know it's going to. I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. I can't put it together yet. But I do think Absolute Point in Time, as we pointed out before, is going to be a key concept.
Well, see, the thing is that I wouldn't have thought this would be the most important episode for the MCU unless I was told that. Like, once
Yeah.
I'm told that, I can be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Perhaps the destruction of that universe does cause a domino effect that the Watcher didn't foresee. So maybe he should have interfered.
That would be interesting.
So who's to say? All right, Mark, I think that's all I really had to talk about. Did you have anything else?
No, I think we've covered everything. Yeah.
Did you want to give a rating, or did you not know your rating yet?
Okay. Well, I'll give a rating. I mean, it could change my mind, but at the top of my head, I would say it was a 9 out of 10. It did really impress me. I thought it was really powerful, especially the ending, which I loved, having all the voice actors, all that stuff. I think deserves a 9. Some of the mind-bending headache logic about it, I'm still iffy about, but I would still give it a 9. I still think it was a really powerful episode.
Yeah, I was thinking 9.5. I think we're gonna go all in on a 10. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a 10. To me, it's the best episode of the series so far. But it's something that I can walk back later to. I could see the other episodes and go, actually, no, that's really a 9. But for now, my initial thoughts after watching that was like, wow, that was incredible. That's a 10. So I'm gonna go with a 10 for now. But I really love this episode. And yes, it was depressing, but it was very powerful. Sometimes the episodes that move you emotionally the most, or the movies in general that move you the most emotionally, can be some of the best stuff. So I absolutely loved it. All right. Any last thoughts, or do you want to just tell people where they can find you?
Yes, so finding me for the first time, my name is Mark. My channel is Enchantment of Eternity. I'm covering covering Star Trek Lower Decks at the moment, doing lots of various Star Trek videos. Doing Better Call Saul, and just after we do the stream, we're going to watch season 2 of Star Wars Clone Wars, so I can review that. I got season 1 up already, and yes, I shall be here every week to talk about What If. As well. So yeah, you can check out my channel for all that.
All right, thank you, Mark. And my name is Alyssa. If you are watching right now, Alyssa Jean's Reviews, so go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done already. Check out all of my other content on the MCU. And I have an MCU related announcement. Sounds like Dawn is going to see Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings right now. I'm going to go see it tomorrow at 6 o'clock my time. So I will plan to set up a solo live stream for 9 o'clock West Coast time. And I know that's late for you on the East Coast, but you can always watch it the next day. And that live stream, I'm just going to come in and give my initial spoiler free thoughts on the film. And then later next week, I will do a more thorough spoilery review on the film. But tomorrow night, I will come live and just talk about my initial reaction, my initial thoughts of that film in a very spoiler-free manner. So please check that out. I also am reviewing Lower Decks. I'm working on my episode 4 review right now, and that'll be up later on tonight. So Star Trek Lower Decks, I am reviewing that as well. So check out all of that stuff. And thanks for joining us, everybody. And we will see you next week, where we will once again be joined by Darren from D's Reviews to talk about the next episode of What If. So have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time.